I'm Russ. 182. 182. We made it. Welcome back to the Nerd Basement, ladies and gentlemen. Our virtual production here during our coronavirus crisis here in the United States and the world, really. Sorry we're running late. Once again, technical difficulties. It was. Uh-oh, it sounds like you are not being able to be heard, Chris. Uh, Hopefully, Chris has got a fix maybe. Let's say okay. So I'll 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 keep the show moving along, I guess. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it has been another hell of a week. Hang on, let me mute this because it's bugging me. Um, Once again, like I said, the country is in the throes of the coronavirus, so we are continuing to do the show virtually. Hopefully, when this is over, when a lot of this stuff is over, Chris will be in this, and I'll be in the same room again. I do got to admit, though, it is kind of convenient. The nice thing, I don't have to get in the car and drive, but still, it is better. The interaction is better to be when we're in the same room together. A lot of things went down this week. Over the last couple of days, a lot of big announcements, particularly on the video game side. PlayStation 5, Sony premiered the PlayStation 5, and they have not premiered a price point yet for it. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of a lot of exclusive games, some big surprises, some really great stuff. I'm really excited to the things that I'm seeing. The peripherals for the PS5, what else? It wasn't just I can hear you. I've been able to hear you. No, you still can't. You still can't hear you. I just unmuted it. Um, so what else? A lot of big, like I said, a lot of big things. Thankfully, politically, things have seemed to. I don't know. I mean, things are still going down. Things are still being a mess. But thankfully, we're starting to see some like some political leaders, some of the governmental like offices and whatnot are finally starting to listen, and so that's really great. I mean, as bad as some of the protesting has been, it has been somewhat successful. We're also starting to see a lot of the protesting move out into the suburbs too, suburban areas, smaller towns and cities having their own protests, and it's been really great. Hang on, I can hear you all the time, but go say something again. Nope, still nothing, Chris. For some reason, Chris is very upset, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody is really he's really upset. I don't blame you, man. It's a pain in the ass. Sorry, guys. Every week, there's almost always some small hiccup, some kind of hiccup that happens. Yeah, and quite often, I mean, it's like we just turn on everything, get it ready to go. Um, I don't know here. No, you're completely unhearable. I mean, like I said, I can hear you in my mic or in my headset. Sorry, guys. Chris is for if you're just joining us for whatever reason, Chris's mic, although it is picking up that I can hear him, it's not being recorded. It's not being able to be heard on the feed on the stream. So we're trying to figure it out. but we're having some tough time. Um, so anyway, we some fairly big things. Like I said, some really big things, and it is nice that, like I said, there seemed to be getting some traction. Things are changing. I guess Minneapolis decided to voted to completely restructure the police department, so that's cool. Um, that's like the beginning, I guess that's the beginning. So we'll get into some of that stuff. I mean, I am drinking this week. I'm drinking Squishy. I'm looking at the wrong camera, the wrong thing. Squishy from Starcut Ciders. I think I've reviewed this before. It's a pretty solid cider. I like it, but I thought I'd give it another shot. It's been a long time. Thankfully, when I went to the liquor store, there were a bunch of new ciders on the shelf, but most of them weren't cold, so I did try to buy a new one for next week. I get it out myself. So, to give you guys an update, Chris is still not sure what's going on. It may come down to us. To now, yeah, now you're muted. I can't. Yeah. Um, it may come down to us guys stopping the feed and trying to reboot again or something and try and figure this out. Anyway, Squishy from Star Cut Ciders. It's a really fantastic. It's a semi-sweet fruit cider. It's mostly it's a cherry cider essentially, apples and cherries. I can still hear you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, if you like some of the more fruit style, like berry style ciders, this is a pretty good one. It is semi-sweet. It's got a bit of a tartness to it. So check it out. Starcut
Okay,
Ciders
can you hear
from
me
Squishy.
now? I'm actually seeing levels go up on the mic.
Oh, yep, we got you, Chris.
Oh, fucking A.
Now thanks, Zaphod. What the fuck? What was the problem? Did you
Uh
figure it out? What?
yeah, well it's I don't know what the fuck happened. So it was a setting that I didn't change. So I have no fucking clue what it was.
Well, man, like
Well,
every
welcome
week.
to episode 182.
Yeah.
The most
Busted that
frustrating
joke. That's
episode
great.
ever.
Thanks, CD.
Oh man, I was going to review a beer, now I think I need liquor.
Yeah, I get a shot, man. That's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
What are you drinking, man? What are you drinking?
Let me pour it here. I am actually drinking a beer from a local microbrew, um, one of my favorite breweries, Royal Oak Brewing, over in Royal Oak. It's the first brewery in Royal Oak, which I can show the bottle. It's a completely unmarked bottle. Oh,
It's got nothing on it.
yeah, it's got a
Nice.
bubble inside though. But what I'm drinking is actually their Kolsch style, which if you look, you can see me through the beer. It's so clear.
Oh wow, yeah.
It is it's a Kolsch style beer. It has to be a Kolsch style because you can't actually make a Kolsch anywhere but in Cologne, Germany. Um, it it has that lager aroma, so it's kind of it's kind of sulfury. It is it doesn't smell great. I'll say that. And that's one of the things about a lot of the lagers is that I don't like the way they smell, but if
Mm.
it's done right, it can taste really well. And this one, I'm gonna take a taste here.
It's kind of like cocaine. I don't like the way it tastes, but I love the way it smells.
um,
I don't know what
it's got a
cocaine
very
is.
this has got a very lager flavor to it. This one's been sitting for a couple of weeks. It's better fresh, but this one's still good. It's got it tastes like a lager, even though it's not. Um, it is it's a refreshing beer. It's very light. This is a great beer for people who say they don't like craft beer. People who
Okay.
like Budweiser, Miller, Coors, the American light lagers. Um, this would be a great beer to give them to try because it's kind of like that but with flavor. Um, it actually is really good. Jeremy over there at Rail Oak does a great job with all of his beers, but particularly his German styles. And this one is absolutely fantastic. I give this 4 bottle caps. If you like that style of beer, like a nice light lager, this is great in the summer. As a matter of fact, they do a thing over there once a month. Well, not with Corona, but in the warmer months, they do what they call Kolsching Hour. They've got a little patio out back, and people go back there and they actually serve Kolsch in the traditional Kolsch glasses, which are these tall, skinny, like 6-ounce glasses. And they come around, and you don't order a Kolsch, you just get a Kolsch. So if you're out there, they give you a coaster and they give you a Kolsch, and they'll mark like one little hash on the coaster. And then every time you get a new one, they just put another hash on your coaster. And then when you're done, you just take your coaster up to the bartender to pay, and it's $2 per hash.
Okay.
So really, it's like $4 for a 12-ounce beer, which is about typical for most of your of your craft breweries. It's even kind of cheap for a lot of them. And it's a lot of times they might forget once in a while. So it's just a fun atmosphere to be out there, and they blow these horns at like every hour, and it's a lot of fun. They do it from like 11 till 2.
They blow horns every hour?
Yeah, they got like these plastic. I forget what they're called, what kind of horns they are, but yeah, they have somebody at like each corner, and they all blow the horns, and everybody cheers and drinks more. Why you got that face, man?
Okay.
You got to be
Hope
there.
you're not jumpy when you're drinking.
What's that?
Hopefully you're not too jumpy when you're drinking. You could be taking a drink.
You see them getting
all of a sudden
it's not like it's a big surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like you're wearing your beer.
But yeah, so four bottle caps.
Why does it got to be an event?
If you're in Michigan and you're anywhere near Royal, because they don't distribute, but it's a really good beer.
Okay.
Oh yes, it definitely is that type of year. Shots again? It's definitely that type of year.
Shots. I hate that song. Okay.
So what was it you were drinking?
I am drinking a squishy from Starcut.
Squishy.
It's squishy. It's semi-sweet fruit cider. It's a cherry and apple cider. It's nice. It's semi-sweet. I like mine a little on the sweeter side. It's got a real tart bite to it, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've reviewed it before. There is a number of. I was at the liquor store, and I noticed there's a couple of new ciders on the shelf, but most of them are warm. So I picked up a 4-pack for next week of something new, and I was like, well, I'll get a 6er of the squishy here. It's kind of good, and I like Starcut ciders. A lot of the Starcut ciders are pretty good. I got to admit, I'm still really. I think Blake's is turning out some of my favorite stuff, though. I mean, Starcut does make Mosa, which is one of my favorites for sure. But I'm really big on. I like the Starcut ones too. Octorok. There's this one. They're squishy, and then there's a couple other ones too that I'm down with too. So.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, that's what I'm drinking. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I've reviewed this one before, but it's been a long time on this one. At least it's not like a traffic jam or a Mosa or something like that.
Yeah.
How was your week?
Up until today, it hasn't been bad. Or actually, up until about a half an hour ago, it hasn't been bad. For the most part, I mean, it was good. Actually got to play D&D at the table with a bunch of my friends on Saturday.
Oh, well, that's cool.
We played in my buddy's garage. We had a couple tables set up. We probably didn't social distance like we should have, but Still, we were outside ish, um, and it was a good time. Had a really good time.
Well, I mean, the thing is, things are lightening up. Things are lessening up. I mean, they do talk about the fact that we do have to keep an eye out for a second wave of the coronavirus. But honestly, I mean, a lot of people that have already had it. A lot of people that would have had it have already had it and been through it. So it's, as long as you're not like, I don't know, sharing drinks with a bunch of people that you don't know. I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, honestly, we could probably start doing our show back again at your house again.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Except that I have to get another. Now that we're doing this, I have to find another webcam to
if
set
we were
up.
to truly,
Yeah.
socially distance and not just use the
Well,
one
no, not it.
camera.
Well, dude. We shared a mic. We're not sharing a camera now.
Okay, it's you need to come to terms with your homophobia, man. I mean, come on.
It's. I love you, dude, but no.
It's not that much. Yeah, we're brothers, not brothers. Um, let's see. I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I think if you're okay with, uh, as long as people are careful, and don't go someplace if you're not feeling well. If you, for sure. I mean, it's just like we can't continue to like distance ourselves forever. We've got to be able to be in the same room with people. We've got to be able to shake hands and hug and just be able. There are people there. Apparently, they're seeing an actual like like effect from people being all by themselves or alone or at the very least with having very little contact. It's it's having a psychological effect on people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean they're talking about find somebody. I think even the Donald Trump had said something about find a cuddle buddy or something. Find somebody that you can quarantine with. So
Well, speaking of the Cheeto in chief,
yeah.
did you see what he said now?
What did he say today?
Well, I don't know that it was today. It was in the last couple days, though. That if we stop testing, we'll have less cases.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If we stop testing, we'll have less cases. Really, Donnie? Is that how that works? Wow.
like ignorance of the problem is not a cure.
How about the one something about a ramp at I don't know. He made some big deal about walking down a ramp or something like that, thinking it was like set up by the Democrats to specifically make him fall or something like that. But he made it down.
Yeah.
Success.
Yeah.
What does the matter with you? Have you heard this going rumor too that apparently he wears adult diapers or something like that?
Well, that wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, no. I mean, he is a 72-year-old man. I mean,
I can say he's 74.
74, whatever the fuck. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he just had a birthday. Honestly, if he does, so what? There's a lot of men his age that probably have incontinence issues, but still, I found that to be in poor taste, honestly. People circulating this rumor is like, there's a lot of old people that, you get to a certain point, maybe you can't control your bowels as well. I don't know. I felt that was
that one. I'm not worried about so much. It's just
that's a cheap shot, is what
yeah,
it is.
it really is. But yeah, just that kind of shit. The fact that he retweeted himself recently.
I love the fact that for almost every tweet that he makes or every statement that he makes, you can find a tweet where he contradicts himself.
Yeah.
From when Obama was in charge, or
Yep.
or even before that, or whatever. For every statement he makes, you can generally find another tweet or some other statement that he made, where he counteracted it, where he's saying the opposite of what. It's just amazing to me.
Well, And then his boy Mitch is making comments that they don't need to do reparations for
Oh,
slavery because the civil rights laws and electing Barack Obama president was enough.
pretty much cleared him of that
Yeah,
debt.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm one of those people that I feel like we shouldn't blame people today for what happened 200 years ago,
I
for
agree.
sure. At the same time, we still got to remember that people that were our skin color were responsible for that shit, and we got to remember to acknowledge it and still But I didn't. I am 46. I'm not 120.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever it would be. I mean, there's nobody alive today that was a slave owner. There's nobody alive today whose parents were slave owners. It's ridiculous to for anybody to look at us and say, "Hey, you owe me money," or stuff like that. But at the same time, it still needs to be it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be remembered
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
In all honesty, I don't think that there needs to be money paid, but there needs to be changes
Yes, absolutely.
in our system. The systemic racism needs to go away. We need to actually treat people as equals, no
Yeah,
matter what their skin color is. We
absolutely.
have one race on this planet. It's the human race.
What's up?
We do not have various races. It's all just based on slightly different skin tones and
Thanks.
ethnicities. That's all it is.
Um, Yeah, absolutely. And Stella was just piping in. She says we owe them money. So, I and like
I don't agree with that,
I
but
don't know if I can agree with that. I mean, it's. I do think that they're. I agree that with the fact that we do need to change the system from the ground up, and because it is a it's a system built to keep people of color down,
mm-hmm.
and that needs to change completely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, how would you like quantify that? Like in today's dollars, what would you? How would you go? I mean,
Yeah, I don't
how
know
would you
that you can.
quantify that? Yeah. I mean, your grandparents or your great grandparents were honestly probably more like great grandparents were slaves. What? How do you quantify where that where the money lands and and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that? Like yeah, I mean, my my great grandmother died, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, something like that, at like 95. And she was not old enough to have been like around when there were slaves,
Mm-hmm.
that like I said, even young people's great grandparents right now, we're not, it would be more like great great grandparents might have been slaves or might have had. So it goes back quite a ways, and I don't know. I mean, it's like, does everybody that who's can trace back their roots to slavery, do they get like 10 grand from the government? I mean, do they get 20 grand? I mean, it's like I don't know. It's beyond me, and it's being a cisgendered white male in America. I'm not the person to speak on it, but it still seems to be like that sounds like a very complicated question and something that is very very deep and weird for this show.
Yeah, it's not something we should get into.
Not
Um,
really.
so we should move on to some nerd shit though, because there's a
Yeah.
lot
Let's.
of shit been going on this week.
Yes. Exactly. A lot of stuff. Like
Yeah,
I've got a ton of stuff here, just kind of like bookmarked and stuff on
yeah.
here.
Well, the first thing I
What?
was thinking that we would talk about was the big announcement from DC,
Which is?
DC fandom.
Oh yeah, their big their online event.
Yes, they're gonna do it.
Yes.
They're gonna do an online event
Yeah.
August 22nd, starting at
Mm-hmm.
10 a.m. Pacific time. So that
Correct.
would be what 1 o'clock over here on the East Coast, or on the
Mm-hmm.
east side of the eastern side of the U.S. Um, that is going to be free for everyone. They're
Yes.
going to have tons of panels. They're going to have stuff. They're going to be previewing things for like the Batman and
Wonder Woman
Wonder
and
Woman,
Black Adam, the new Black Adam
Black
movie.
Adam, Harley Quinn, the Snyder Cut
Right.
of Justice League,
All of
the
the
Flash,
Arrowverse
yeah,
shows. Yeah. So pretty much everything. They're going
yeah,
to be
Batwoman, Black Lightning, DC Superhero Girls.
right. Yeah, which is
Uh,
actually a pretty cute show if you've caught it at
I
all.
have not. I didn't
Uh,
realize it was out.
yeah, it's it you can I think they're on Netflix. I think you can see them on Netflix,
Okay.
or at the very least, I believe they are also on DC streaming. Um, yeah, Doom Patrol, Snyder, or excuse me, Stargirl, Harley Quinn, Lucifer, anything that's associated
Yeah.
with DC.
I forgot about Lucifer. Pennyworth is another
Pennyworth,
one.
yeah, Young Justice, Outsiders. I mean, everything. They've even talked about when they had the Watchmen show on HBO. There was the first season was really great because we actually reviewed each episode in our Who's Watching the Watchmen segment. It had Damon Lindelof, who was the showrunner for the first season, had stated that he wasn't interested in coming back for another season, but he wasn't opposed to somebody else taking the reins. So the fact that they're going to be talking about it and dealing with it, there's an idea that maybe we could see a second season, which I think I'd be totally down for. I thought it was really great. I thought it opened up a lot of interesting doors and asked a lot of cool questions. So yeah, August 22nd, starting at 10 a.m. on the West Coast. The DC is going to be at DC Fandom. That's FANDOME.com. All one word, DC Fandom. .com. The event will feature 6 different virtual areas, each with their own full programs.
Yep. DC TV, movies, games, and comics are all going to be talked about. Which, by the way,
it's basically in lieu of the
Comic-Con.
The Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So.
Which, by the way, speaking of DC TV and Harley Quinn, that is still one of the goddamn funniest shows on TV.
It's really amazing. It's really amazing. I laugh my ass off every time. The Joker. He was dating a nurse practitioner. And just
well, I think it might be.
Shit.
I think it might be the second funniest show on TV behind What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah. That also. They just had the season finale.
Yeah, and I was so sad when I watched it. I'm like, I want more.
Yeah, it is so damn hilarious, and it makes me sad that the show is a fairly short season.
Yes,
because it doesn't look like it's not like the production, the actual filming production, is particularly expensive. They have been filming. It looked like they've been filming the whole second season was in the colder months. So which was that kind of probably sucked a lot, but still, it's not like they've had these really elaborate sets or really expensive, special effects and everything else. It looks like a lot of the special effects are done in post,
Yeah.
Some of the digital creatures and the flying and those different special effects. I don't know. I've seen much more expensive shows, so I don't understand why their seasons are so short. It is a Hulu exclusive show, so maybe they want to keep them short seasons. Who knows? But it is really, really successful. So, I'd love to see a longer season out of that show. You've got looks like we got 2 more episodes of Harley Quinn.
Yep.
Coming up to the end. Harley Quinn episode 12 is Lover's Quarrel, and then the final one, it doesn't have the date, the name of it yet. Yeah. But yeah, the latest one was so hilarious. Basically, the Joker had been cured essentially through some kind of accident. He had been cured, and he had
when the tower collapsed.
When the tower fell, yeah, he didn't have any memory of his former life. His skin was normal, and he was working as a bartender. He was dating a nurse practitioner. She was she was a Latina, and it was really, really funny. She had 2 kids, and he had become a parent to these 2 kids. And Yeah, so Harley had to expose him to the acid again so that he would become the Joker again, so that maybe he would remember where the storybook where the Justice League had been trapped
Yeah.
and
Queen of Fables book.
right, the Queen of Fables book, and the book was at his ex-girlfriend's place, and it was just the confrontation that they had was hilarious. She's swearing at him in Spanish, and then the Joker realizes did I screw something up?
Yeah.
Did I screw up a really good thing? I mean, maybe I have. Maybe this is something that needs to change or whatever. And I'm like, holy crap in a hat. So, so he the Joker comes to that realization that he's going to continue on with this relationship with this woman. And they're even, well, are you going to change? Or he goes, no, I'm going to change. I mean, there's a lot of women that love serial killers.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, even seeing that Harley and the Joker fighting back to back, killing parademons, I'm just like, yeah, nice knowing you, Mr. J. And then thankfully Batman shows up in the bat plane, and he can't, of course, he screws it up. He's like, so you two are in league with with Darkseid. It's got, no,
Yeah.
we've been fighting these demons, and we're trying to get the Justice League back, and just. The detective skills are a little rusty, huh, there, Batman? Well, I've been out of it for a while. Oh, man, some funny stuff. Really funny shit.
Yep.
And the thing about it is it's not only is it funny, it's also just, it's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of, honestly, real character development. And that's one of the things that I'm really impressed by.
Well, and then even at the beginning of the show with Frank sitting on the couch with that other guy, and he's like, I tested really well with the audience, so the writers try and shoehorn me into episodes wherever they can.
Oh my God, yeah. It's so meta, too. I mean, it basically just knows itself, it knows its audience, and it's really great. I loved how Poison Ivy was losing her shit, because Psycho has screwed up, damaged the wedding dress she was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, God damn it! This is a $10,000 Vera Wang! And Kite Man's like, babe, are we still doing that whole thing where the bride's family pays for the wedding? So yeah, I wasn't even sold on a backlist, or whatever. It's just like, holy shit. So really, really fucking great. But yeah, and then, I mean, I've said it many, many times. We're living in a golden age of television right now. Golden age of media entertainment. We're seeing some of the best TV shows that have ever been made, coupled with some of the stupidest shit that anybody's ever thought of. Things like The Bachelor and Tiger King and things like that are just like, I can't believe I'm watching this.
And also, speaking of other DC stuff, did you see that Wonder Woman got pushed back again?
Yes, October 4th, 2nd. I believe. 2nd?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually had that as a note to discuss. Yeah, they did push it back. They're still waiting. They're really pushing for a theatrical release.
Yep.
So they're going to give it some more time for more theaters to open and fuller.
We'll see if we have theaters by then.
Well, I think some theaters have started opening, but they're opening at a quarter capacity. So,
well, I know that I think they were allowed to open in Traverse City in the UP here in Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. But once again, at 50% or quarter capacity.
I think it's quarter capacity for them.
I mean, at that point, it's I mean, in some of the bigger theaters, maybe it can still be viable. But you got some of these theaters that around here where you got these huge ass, lazy boy recliner seats, and you got maybe 4 dozen seats in the theater, and you can only open for 12 for a showing of 12. I mean, what kind of profit is that? There's
well, and the thing is,
the theater can't be
and it's not like you have to space out, because if you're with somebody, if Renee and I go, we can still sit together. We don't have to social distance. So it's
yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I said, some of this stuff I'm in complete support of, and complete, but other stuff I'm I don't know. There was a drive-in theater, the Ford, Wyoming, I believe, down in Dearborn, tried to open up or reopen up for for movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, I mean, a drive-in theater, I mean, that makes so much sense. It's perfect for social distancing. Everybody's in their cars and watch the fucking movie. And but I guess the city came in and shut it down. Now my guess is it was probably maybe the bathrooms or the snack bar weren't up to code or weren't up as opposed to the social distancing aspect or whatever. But I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I really want to be supportive of all this stuff, but some of the things just seem a little silly to me. And
Canterbury Village is doing a drive-in. They're
yeah,
showing older movies, but I mean, some of them are like a year or so old, but some of them,
right.
like they did Ghostbusters one night a couple weeks ago.
That's cool. I'd go to see Ghostbusters at a drive-in. That'd be a lot of fun. Some things are just like with so many things being canceled, so many events and everything being canceled. We need these kind of things. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people, I guess, not everybody. Here, let me word this right. I mean, I think it surprised people how much everybody relies our culture and our country relies on events and on social events and social gatherings and things to do, not just as a way for us to make livings, but just as a way as a society to keep moving forward and keep staying healthy as a culture and as a society. And just something as simple as going to the movie theater is important.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, not just because a lot of people make their livings, in association with these kind of things, concert events, things like Renaissance festivals, things like art shows and art fairs and stuff like that. All these things are important to our culture and to what we do as a culture in the United States. Yeah. So
What else you got?
what else? Let's see. I got a lot of things here. Let me pick one here. Okay, The Witcher season 2 is removing one of its most controversial aspects: the multiple timelines. There was an article released a couple days ago here that states that the showrunner has said yes, they will still have flashbacks and potentially flash forwards, but for the most part, the multiple storylines from different timelines, that part of the story is over now that all the characters have come together in the same time frame. So they thought one of the things that they thought was kind of cool in the first season, the showrunners did, was ultimately one of the biggest criticisms of the show. So they said that is out the window. So the multiple timelines, which saw Witcher's first season flick back and forth between Yennefer's origin, Ciri leaving Sintra, and Geralt's many, many monster hunting adventures across several decades, was a storytelling device that came without warning and didn't quite land. Season 2 will do things differently. So, it was obviously one of the most controversial parts of Season 1, and I didn't expect it to be as controversial as it was. This is from Lauren S. Hisrich, who was the showrunner.
I understand what they're saying. I mean, yeah, I had some difficulty with it. I wasn't crazy about it. I agree, CD, that it did make it different. That was something that set it apart from other shows. But I really didn't care for it. I'm not opposed to it being gone.
Right. Exactly. So,
I mean, it established how old Yennefer and Geralt both are.
Well, and the thing is, though, it did, but at the same time, you had to really pay attention, because you had to pay attention to names, you had to pay attention, realizing that, he ends up later on working for a king, and then he also knew that king's mother, so things like that. It was like when that king's mother was very young, so you had to pay attention to get that, and that's what I think a lot.
It also set up the whole thing about why there's a connection between him and Ciri.
Yes, correct. That was a very important too. Let's see. I think I saw somewhere. Yeah, we still don't have a date for season 2 yet, although they did state that the filming will be resuming shortly. So that's good. How about you? You got an I had a. Not only did the Wonder Woman be delayed, but also Tenet, another new big movie from Warner Brothers,
which the trailer just dropped for, and I haven't watched it yet.
Kind of, it's interesting. It looks interesting. I believe it's some sort of time travel kind of movie or whatever.
But yeah, that's why I had heard. That's why they moved Wonder Woman, was because of
it's one of the reasons. Yeah, Wonder Woman has been, like I said, from a mid-August premiere to October 2nd, delayed Christopher Nolan's Tenet by 2 weeks from July 17th to July 31st. And they also pushed back The Matrix 4 by almost a year. And the heavyweight showdown of Godzilla versus Kong has also been moved back. So Warner Brothers moved back a bunch of stuff. Like I said, they're really still pushing for these theatrical releases. Which is, okay, great. I don't want theaters to go away. I mean, I'll admit I do like having the movies at home and being I have a decent TV and I don't mind watching these movies on my TV. But at the same time, I really like going to the theater and I like seeing these movies in in these big theaters. The Matrix 4 paused production earlier this year, but hopes to start up again later in the year. And it's been moved from May 21st of 21 to April 1st of 22. The significant year-long delay means the sequel to the Matrix trilogy will open a week after Marvel's Doctor Strange sequel. I don't know. Trying to compete with a Marvel movie, that's a bad idea. So, Godzilla vs. Kong was due in cinemas this November, but now takes the Matrix 4's May 21st release date. So Godzilla vs. Kong pushed to next year of late May. So that's a little bit more on movie news. There's the online event thing here. Let's see. Zack Snyder teases a Justice League Snyder Cut story change involving the DCEU's Robin. It's apparently going to dive into the Robin's tragic past. If you remember, in the Justice League, the cut of I think it was Batman versus Superman (BVS), you saw a Robin costume that had been marred and mutilated, and but there was never any real answer to that. So, from what we understand. We could see Robin has been conspicuous by his absence in the DCEU series of movies. His suit was displayed complete with mocking Joker graffiti in Suicide Squad, while Ben Affleck's costume continues to reflect. Ben Affleck's Batman continues to reflect on the loss of his sidekick in BVS. Even more interesting, unless Snyder misread the question, is that it was Dick Grayson who died, not Jason Todd. So, it was basically a question that was given to Zack Snyder. Did you have plans to dive deeper into the background of Dick Grayson's death in your future movies, or Robin's death in your future movies, maybe Justice League? And Snyder's tantalizing reply was, quote-unquote, a hint will be in his version of Justice League. So maybe we'll see more answers to that. For those of you not aware, in the comics, Jason Todd famously met his end at the hands of Joker and a crowbar. Jason's dying not only shakes up the retelling of the story, Grayson's dying shakes up the retelling of the story, but leaves the possibility of Jason Todd or another Robin to step into the green and red getup of the Boy Wonder. So, I honestly am really looking forward to this Snyder Cut, just because, I liked Justice League, but I think the Snyder Cut is really going to fully express what his intentions were and what the movie was supposed to be. And maybe
I've been crazy about his movies as far as like Man of Steel and BVS. I was not a fan of either of those, really.
I wasn't as much of a fan of the darkness, the inherent darkness of his kind of vision, but at the same time, I liked them too, so we'll see.
I
Um,
also hated casting choices for like Lex Luthor and
I didn't care for that choice. I was not a big fan of Lex Luthor, the version of Lex. Um, so yeah, but man, Henry Cavill was amazing.
yeah, I liked him. I
Like,
like Henry Cavill as
yeah,
Superman.
yeah. So a couple of days ago, we lost a comic book great. Uh, Dennis O'Neill, was a comic book writer. He was famously uh, for DC Comics. He wrote a lot of it. He wrote some Marvel comics too, but I think he was best known for his work on Batman. He had some really really groundbreaking stories. He was writing Batman in the late '70s and was actually responsible for the Joker's resurgence. The Joker had kind of been, well, for lack of a better term, a joke for quite a while. They'd been kind of in the background. They'd been focusing on a lot of the other Batman villains for quite a while, and he in the late, I think in like '78 or whatever, he he wrote a very very specific. I would think it was the Tale of Five Jokers or something like that. Wrote a very very influential story that kind of made the Joker dangerous again and relevant again, and he was a very important writer. He dealt with sociological themes in a lot of his writing. The dude was very very important. He actually wrote the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics, which I actually have sitting on my shelf over here. He's he worked a lot with one of the biggest Batman artists of the time, Neil Adams. Actually, one of the most very influential artists. Neil Adams was one of the artists that kind of changed the way comics were drawn in the '60s and '70s. He was one of those guys that introduced really really dramatic angles and camera, like really dramatic camera angles in drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guarantee anybody that has read a comic from a Batman comic or Dead Man or some of these other comics, a lot of DC comics from the '70s, he worked on a lot of them, and particularly Batman. He was very important. I think Denny O'Neil was one of those guys that he dealt a lot with Raj Al Ghul. I don't know if he created Raj, but I know he used him a lot in stories. But like I said, the dude was very very influential. I believe he got. Green Arrow was another one that he worked on. Was very important. There's a lot of there. I can't really just go into all of these right now, but there was an article here on Newsarama where the comic world reacts to his death, and there's a lot of really really wonderful statements. I'm going to read the one real quick from DC itself.
Dennis O'Neil is one of the ones that created Raj Al Ghul.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It was
Thank
created
you
by editor Julius Schwartz, writer Dennis.
Julie
O'Neil,
Schwartz.
Writer Dennis O'Neil, and artist Neil Adams.
Neil Adams. Okay, Julie Schwartz was an editor for DC Comics for a very fucking long time, and he was one of those guys who was really like the '70s and '80s. He was a very influential editor.
And he was introduced in Batman's number 232, Daughter of the Demon, June 1971.
Awesome. It says, here's the statement from DC. DC is deeply saddened by the loss of our longtime friend and industry legend, Denny O'Neil. Denny began his professional career as a reporter in Missouri, and it was a series of articles he wrote in the mid-'60s about the comic book industry that caught the attention of Marvel editor Roy Thomas. Denny soon started writing for comics, and in '68 he contributed his first stories to DC. Denny quickly became one of the company's most influential contributors, writing 6 or 7 stories a month. His breakthrough came in '70 when he and artist Neil Adams started working on Batman. The pair forged a grittier version of Batman, returning the character back to its earliest days as the ominous Dark Knight of Gotham City. So he was responsible for returning Batman to his kind of grittier origins after the campiness of the '60s, particularly the influence of the '66 TV show. Denny modestly described it as a return to the character's roots, but it was much more than that, said DC Chief Creative Officer and publisher Jim Lee. They channeled the zeitgeist of the times and brought to life a darker, more evocative yet grounded take on Batman. Next up for the pair was a remarkable series of Green Lantern and Green Arrow stories, Hard Traveling Heroes. That's right, he wrote the Hard Traveling Heroes story, where Green Arrow challenges Green Lantern to come back down to Earth and look at the problems of society and showing the societal ills. It was very powerful and very out of the ordinary for the comic book industry at the time. These stories dealt with topics that were formerly taboo in comics, including drug addiction, racism, and other social ills. The stories won every award the comics industry could bestow. After a stint at Marvel, Denny returned to DC in '86 to supervise and edit the Batman titles. It was a post he held until his retirement in '01. Denny was an amazingly talented writer and editor, said Bob Harris, editor-in-chief from DC. More than that, he was a beloved member of the DC family, and he will be sorely missed. There's a bunch of other various glowing comments. C.B. Cebulski, the Marvel editor-in-chief. Another comment from Jim Lee, from Joe Quesada, Marvel's creative director, who created Azrael with O'Neill. Writer Tom King, who was the big Batman writer for most recently. Jerry Conway, writer and editor. Writer Brad Meltzer, who is also a novelist and a comic book writer. Writer Scott Snyder, writer-artist Dan Jurgens, Frank Miller, Mark Millar, Mike Magnolia. So it goes on and on. Kevin Smith. So some really great response. So rest in peace. Thank you very much for your contributions to the art form. Raise your glass to Denny O'Neill. Thank you, sir. Rest well. So yeah, that sucked a lot. Moving on, the Steam Summer Game Festival is started. So for those of you guys are computer gamers, you're avid on Steam, you might want to go on to Steam. Check out what's new. There's a lot of free demos, like a ton of free demos. You can chat with devs. There's a lot of scheduled chats going on for lots of different things going on here on Steam. A lot of deals on games, sales. There's just a ton of stuff. So check out the Steam Game Festival, the Summer Edition. Steam sales can be detrimental to my checkbook, but honestly, if you get some of these games for 20, 30, 50, 80% off, a game that maybe you've been wanting to try for a long time, but you kind of held off because of the price, check them out. And there's all kinds of stuff on Steam too. Like, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of older games that you can get that maybe aren't available anymore, like aren't available on like your video game system, but are now available. Like an older game that you liked from, like, say, the PS2 might be available on Steam, or a game that you just a game you played 20 years ago on the computer, like Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII, you can get for $12. They just did the game. If you guys remember last year, the game that came out, Detroit Become Human, really great game. One of their earlier games, Heavy Rain, has just been re-updated for remastered. Thank you. For the newer systems and for the computer, and just from looking at some of the screenshots, it looks beautiful. It was a great game. Heavy Rain was a really, really cool game. I highly recommend it. I played it on my PS3, and it was one of the first games that I played that was truly an adult game without being like a dirty game. It wasn't like it wasn't like pornographic or anything, but it was definitely an adult content game. So it was pretty cool stuff. And it's a murder mystery, and every time you play it, you can, depending on the decisions you make, the ending can be different. So that the murderer can end up being a different character. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, highly recommend it. Also, kind of a cool thing this month, if you are a PlayStation Now subscriber, every month they bring out free games, for download. There's at least 2 games that they put out that they give just give it to you for free. And last month it was
For that
one of the
month, though,
games.
right? Once they're
No, it's good to go. It's
oh
good for you to have. Um, Last month, one of the games was Farming Simulator 19 or something like that, and I downloaded that to give it a try. And I got to admit, it's something kind of zen about plowing a field and seeding it and then harvesting your crop and then taking it
you're
to
a
the
nerd.
market. And dude, well, I like sim games. I will admit, I do like simulation games. Most of the time, the sim games I get into are, like Civilization or something like that, or a space sim or something like that. This game, I've played it a little bit, and I gotta go. It's pretty. It's kind of challenging. It's still kind of challenging, and you gotta watch for the prices, and you've got money you've got to control your money. You gotta buy equipment, sell equipment, rent it or lease it. You can work for other farmers, like if you want to just make some extra money while your crop is growing or whatever. You can go and do like harvest their crop and take it somewhere, or whatever. Um, I gotta admit, it's kind of cool, but it's not for everybody. It is kind of it's not a game that I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours playing. It's like checked it out. But one of the games for this month, that was for May. For June, Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Oh,
Yeah. I just downloaded it. I haven't played it yet, but I was like, holy crap, that's pretty cool. Now, Battlefront 1, from what little I played of it, I didn't care for it mainly because there was no first-person story element. It was all just pick a character, run around, shoot people. Not really my jam. Um, Battlefront 2, from what I understand, actually does have a story and a first-person like story. So I am looking forward to getting into that. So that's free on the PlayStation Network right now. I also just started. Last week I started playing it. I started playing Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, and I got to tell you, holy shit, this game was pretty fucking awesome. It it rolls right out from the previous game, Wolfenstein. I think it was the Old Blood or something like that. It rolls right into the game, and it is bloody and kind of over the top, but the story is really great. The acting is really cool. Um, the story of Billy Blazkowicz, the main character, is pretty cool. For those guys who aren't aware, the current game is basically it's an alternate world where the Nazis won World War II, and by pretty much they got the bomb early before we did. They bombed New York City, and basically America went, all right, we give up. And so the Nazis came in and took over the U.S. So takes place in '61, and the levels of technology are higher because of certain like discoveries that the Nazis made using this ancient like society of scientists that have been around for like 1,000 years that had figured out these amazing like scientific advances, but had always held them like secretly, so that because they felt like the world wasn't ready for them yet. But the Nazis got a hold of them. They got a bunch of advancements in weaponry and everything and in science, and were able to jump ahead. So in '61, the science level is much higher than it would be normally in 1961. And and you're Billy Blazkowicz, and you're a super soldier essentially, and you're the Nazis have turned you into a boogeyman, and you're their public enemy number one, and you go out and you're doing your best to create a new revolution to get the country back from the Nazis, and it's great.
you're the head of
Man,
Antifa.
pretty much, yeah. Killing Nazis is, man, it's important. It's important, but it's crazy because it's really bloody. I will admit, it's a very bloody game. Like you can use a hatchet and go right up and just like up close and personal like kill people. And this is like it's way bloodier than like your bloodiest like The Witcher or some of these other fantasy games where you're sword fighting with people and stuff like Skyrim and everything. This game is bloody. But there's also a great deal of humor involved too, like some really really funny stuff. Like, and some of the sci-fi, some of the stuff is way over the top. At one point, you have to go to Venus. Like the Nazis built a base on Venus, and that's where Hitler is. And Hitler is still alive. He's still there in this game. He's an old man. He's mostly senile. He's like, oh man, it's crazy. He's like, they're trying to make a movie. Part of the storyline, they're trying to make a movie, a propaganda film, basically, where Billy Butcher is the villain. And so they're auditioning actors to play the part of Billy Butcher. And so Billy replaces one of the actors and goes in and auditions. And Hitler is the producer. And he's like, he's one, he's there. I mean, like I said, it is insane. There's so yeah, there's like conspiracy theory stuff and all kinds of stuff. The only problem that I had with it was the main storyline was shorter than I would have liked. I got through the main storyline relatively quickly. I was only 50% done with the game, and I was done with the main initial storyline. Now there's still backup stuff to do. Like you can go to each of the previous maps and hunt down Uber Commandos. Like basically the upper echelon of the Nazi regime, the generals. You go to each of the different maps again. You revisit each of the maps again, and hunt them down. And then there's at least 3 different chapters of DLC that you can get, featuring other freedom fighters and other characters and stuff. So there's that. I'm still working on those 2. So I got another, I don't know, probably another week or so of playing that game. And then there was the sequel where basically you play the twin daughters of Billy Blazkowicz, because in the game he has his girlfriend is pregnant with twins. So yeah, and now apparently that takes place in like the early 80s or something. But and I have that to play next. So the game is pretty awesome, but it is a little on the short side. But it's pretty cool. Anyway, check that out if you want. It's a little bit older game. I think it's like 2-3 years old, so you could probably pick it up for. I think actually I saw it. I think on clearance at when Stella and I went to pick up some her prescription at Walmart. I think it was like $8 or $10 maybe. So you could pick that up. I think very much we can kind of roll right into the big news from PlayStation on that.
Well, one of the things before we get into that, another video game that the trailer just dropped for Star Wars Squadrons.
Yeah, I posted that on our page yesterday.
Yeah, holy shit. I have a feeling it's gonna be. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be like Battlefront, though, in that there's not gonna be an actual like first person story. It's gonna be you get in a squadron and team up with your buddies and go try and take on the other guys.
Nope. From what I understand, actually, there is going to be a thing.
Okay.
That they're going to be
one Empire, one Rebel.
I believe actually it might be a point where you're switching back and forth.
Oh.
So sometimes you'll be playing the character from the Rebels, and sometimes you'll be playing a character from the Empire. But I also believe that that there'll be times where you can play online and team up and play in a squadron and stuff like that. So yeah, that looks amazeballs.
Yeah.
If you go to our page and check the article, I believe that was also from the Newsarama site. It was, let me see here.
It's just a YouTube link.
Oh, it's a YouTube link?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was just for the
trailer.
The trailer.
The TIE Fighter pilot's mask is cool as hell with the red skull on the front of it.
Right, exactly. That's right. There is an article on Newsarama or Games Radar if you want to check it out. I read from what I read, it does look like it does have like a one person or a first person story that you can follow and you can enjoy. It's not just online.
So that's going to be released for the new consoles. That's not on the current. It's going to be on the
current
consoles, right?
We're going to see that. We're going to see that in Probably on the PS5, not on anything.
and Xbox
An
Series
Xbox One or Xbox
Series
or
X,
that one.
whatever they're calling. I forget what they're calling the Xbox one. It
Yeah.
was
Did you
Project
see it?
Scarlet. Yes, it's a big box.
It looks like, yeah, like just this box.
I love what people are like taking it and they're like making it into like old computers that look all beat up. Like they put like a retractable disk drive in it and an A, like the old floppy disk drive,
Right.
the old
Yeah.
A drive, and yeah, it's
It
I don't,
doesn't.
it is not aesthetically pleasing.
No, not at all. Whereas the new PlayStation looks pretty cool.
Which what, it was last Friday, wasn't it? That
Thursday.
they did their reveal
It was Thursday on Twitch.
Thursday on Twitch. Okay,
Yeah,
I
they did a
remember
big
watching it and I couldn't remember what day it was.
Xbox Series X. It's called. Yeah, it was Thursday. They did a big Twitch reveal, basically outlining outlaying all of the specs and everything that you're going to be able to get with the new PlayStation.
They previewed a bunch of games.
They previewed pretty much all of the great games. It's like not all of them. I shouldn't say that, but they went into a lot.
I made a list of some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Square Enix has got one, Project Athia. You got GT7 coming out, which holy shit, that it might get me back into racing games.
Yeah, the Gran Turismo 7. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks beautiful. See, that's the thing. I mean, racing games, they're fun, but I always end up I'm like, okay. You know,
I get really into them for a while, and then I'm like, I want to play something else, and then I'm like, I'll come back to it, and once in a while I'll pick it up and play for a race or two, and that's about it. I tend to like get hand cramps because I grip the controller so hard when I'm playing those, because it's all that quick turns and.
Okay, we're going to update some stuff here that we just talked about. The Star Wars Squadrons is going to be pitting pilots against each other in 5v5 first-person space dogfights when it launches on October 2nd, 2020.
Oh.
Which means it'll be launching on the PS4,
yep.
the Xbox One, and PC, with PS4 and PC players having the option to play in VR.
Oh.
God, could you imagine in VR? Fuck, man. Get ready to wear... Get a barf bag ready.
No, dude. I'll get my gaming chair. I'll set that right up in front of the TV. I'll put that headset on, and I am ready to go. Let's go.
Good to go. The multiplayer mode will also support cross-play, meaning different consoles are no barriers to getting your squadron together. So you'll be able to, PS4 players will cross-play with Xbox and PC. Although there's no news yet on a next-gen version. The EA Motive developed game also boasts a single-player mode that tells a new story in the aftermath of Return of the Jedi, placing this very much in the time frame of the original trilogy. You'll play as two customizable pilots in this mode, one fighting for the New Republic's Vanguard Squadron, and the other who battles for the Empire's Titan Squadron, with new and familiar faces set to appear throughout the story. Now, the nice thing about the PlayStation version of the PlayStation is that, sure, it's coming out for the PS4, but it will be playable on the PS5. Its debut trailer gives us an early glimpse of what to expect from the game, with players stepping into X-Wings or TIE Fighters and taking each other on. You'll have a choice of siding with the New Republic or the Empire, but you'll each fly in squads of 5 as you attempt to defeat your rivals. Also, did you spot Wedge Antilles in the trailer at 1:15? Okay, sorry, I'll stop nerding out now. Kind of hard for me. I'm always nerding out. A few modes have already been confirmed, with fleet battles seeing squadrons of 5 trying to demolish their opponents' flagships, while dogfights does what you'd expect and sees teams trying to destroy as many opponents as possible. Locations confirmed so far include Yavin Prime and a new corner of the galaxy in the moon of Gallatin. As you imagine from a game with heavy multiplayer focus, you'll be able to earn new weapons, hulls, engines, and shields as you rank up, alongside cosmetics that can change the appearance of your pilot, cockpit, and ship exterior. Finally, it's launching at a cheaper than usual price of $39.99, suggesting that's a similar scale title than last year's Star Wars It's a smaller scale title than last year's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If, like us, you're digging the look of Star Wars Squadrons, make a note to put EA Play in your diary this week, as we'll be seeing the first look at Star Wars Squadrons during the show this Thursday. My guess is that there will be microtransactions available, and that's probably one of the reasons why the price is lower. I don't know, man. I think it looks pretty fucking cool. I'd be down for some space combat.
Yeah, except I have trouble with that because it's 3-dimensional. Because you're not just forward, backward, side, and
Yeah.
you've got that up down. I get lost on where the hell I am half the time.
Sure.
And in a lot of the games where I've done that, especially if I'm using the joystick controllers, I start getting to where I'm like, I have no idea where I am. Oh, look, there's something. Boom.
Okay.
So,
yeah. No, I can't. I feel you on that. But for me, it just takes some getting used to. After a while, you just kind of like, just kind of get used to it. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think it is something that it could be a lot of fun. I think it could be a lot of fun.
I don't doubt it. I mean, it really looks cool, and the idea that I get to pilot various TIE fighters or an X-wing is kind of cool.
Hey man, give me an A-wing fighter or a B-wing too. I'd like to see all of those ships, man.
Yeah.
See, like, pull out some of those ships from like episode 1 and 2 out of mothballs. I don't know, I'd love that too. So getting back into the PlayStation, the new PlayStation. It's saying big things. I mean, one of the biggest things is that there will be at launch launching 2 different versions of the PlayStation 5. One would be a digital-only version, and the other one will have a disc drive. Now, personally, I will be buying the disc drive version.
Me too.
Mainly because, from what we have talked about quite a bit, is that it will be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 games, with the discs. Specifically the discs, so you won't have to rebuy certain games. It will also be upconverting a lot of those games too, to make them look even better.
It's also my Blu-ray player.
Right, exactly. It's also my Blu-ray player. It will, and from what I understand, will also be a 4K player. So if you do start to get into buying the 4K discs, that is an option as well.
Yeah, after seeing all the previews, I will be buying a new TV before I get or at the same time that I get the new PlayStation.
And thankfully, my TV that I just got back in November is more than adequate for a PlayStation 5. It is a 4K, 4K adaptable or whatever, 4K type of television. I didn't buy it on purpose because of that, but that's what they're making now.
Mm-hmm.
They've also talked about some of the peripherals, a headset, an actual real headset that'll come with, that is either going to come with it or going to be available with it at launch. Also,
I think those are all extra things that you can buy.
Yeah, probably. Also, a remote control specifically for digital content. So,
which is something we've been asking for the PS4 since launch.
I think they made one, but I think it was an off-brand peripheral. I don't think it was like an official PS.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind using my controller. It's not a huge deal. But at the same time, just to be able to pick up a remote and like that, for when I'm scrolling through Netflix and whatever might be helpful. They also have premiered a separate charging station for your controller. A bunch of different things too. I mean, it looks really cool. Now, they've also talked about the fact that it's much taller, bigger than the previous systems. One of the reasons why it said it's bigger so it'll stay cooler, a PlayStation VP confirms. It looks like the PS5 is going to be a big console, and the main reason it needs all that space is heat. Matt McLaurin is the Vice President of User Experience Design at PlayStation. He's been responding to comments of the PS5 reveal on his LinkedIn page. While McLaurin isn't divulging any big shockers like the PS5 price, which is unfortunately something they haven't revealed yet, he has been willing to give some extra content to the console reveal, that Sony did at the PS5 Future of Gaming event last week. One commenter asked why the PS5 needed to be bigger and bulkier than the 4. It's thermals, McLaurin answered. This gen is little supercomputers, while the 7nm process delivers amazing heat performance for the power is very extreme. McLaurin's comments about the 7nm process refers to the ever-shrinking semiconductor technology that allows tech companies to fit higher-performing components into the same amount of space. The other half of the equation is making sure those new components don't overheat. If your PS4 has ever started to sound like a Bayou airboat, you know that, and it has, you know that the ventilation has been a problem for Sony's current generation. Aside from being a big fella, PS5 also has a distinct look about it. McLaurin was willing to share some thoughts about that too in response to commenters. I understand it's not for everyone, and no good art is. Still, I think it's refined enough to tuck away quietly. The editions are going to be lit. So they're basically, one thing I'd read is they wanted it to look aesthetically pleasing because they know that the PlayStation, being a big part of your entertainment system, is going to be like a centerpiece to a lot of people's entertainment. So they wanted it to look nice. They didn't want it to just be like, well, I don't know, a block of plastic in the middle of your table.
Well, and the big complaint people had was that they're like, it's only in white. We want black.
Right. Yeah.
I saw somebody actually posted a picture of it in black with red lighting. And a bunch of people were like, yes, give me that.
I'll take that one, yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing about white, anything white, no matter what you're going to do, it'll eventually look dirty. It'll get dirty. Just from dust or whatever else.
The same way. Black shows dust instantly.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. That's true. But white still, I don't know. I have another article here that said the PS5 special editions will be beyond anything we've seen before, says the PlayStation designer. The PS5 will feature multiple special editions as it apparently more customizable than ever before, according to PlayStation's Vice President of UX Design. From what I understand, I think it's going to have a base of 2 terabytes. I think is what it said, what the specs were. We should look up the specs real quick. So commenting in response to a question, McLaurin promised that PS5 players can count on even more beautiful and hopefully radical special editions to the base white PS5 design revealed last week. Customization with special editions will be beyond anything we've seen before. Confirmed that PS5 will boost 100% overall of the PS4 UI, promising that it's more subtle than flashy, but no pixel is untouched. Excuse me.
All right, so I just looked up the specs. PS5 specs discussed in detail at Sony's March reveal event. Of course, it's going to make me move. It has AMD Zen 2 based CPU with 8 cores and a 3.5 gigahertz. At 3.5 gigahertz, that's the core. 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory and a custom RDNA 2 AMD GPU that puts out 10.28 teraflops of processing power.
Wow.
Where's the actual... I know that they had the thing. It looked like it was like a... Where's the actual specs? Damn it. What's the price? Here we go. All right. Internal storage. Custom 825 gigabyte SSD.
How much?
825 gig.
825 gig SSD hard drive?
Yep.
It's not bad.
It's going to be its internal storage.
Just short of a terabyte, and doesn't mean you can't have, external storage. Kind of
expandable storage NVMe SSD slot. So it's got another SSD slot in there. So it looks like you can put another drive in. And then it also has external storage via USB HDD support for PS4, but for PS4 games only. That will not support PS5. It won't let you play PS5 games off of an external storage device.
Well, so that means PS4 games will go on the external storage device, and the PS5 games will have to go on
and on
on
a secondary internal drive.
or the original one. I mean, 850 gigs is a lot of space. It's just short of a
Dude,
terabyte.
looking at these games, you'll fill that up in 3 games if you have them fully
true.
on there.
Well, I don't download though, so I mean, I very rarely do. In fact, like I said, the first times I've ever the first time I downloaded a game for my PS4 was Dragon Age Inquisition, and then which I played, and then I was like, okay, I played it like I think twice, and then I got it out of there. And now I have an external hard drive that I download, that I put all of the like setup, the installation files go on. So, and now I've got a couple more downloaded games, but they're like 50 gigs here and there. It's not as much.
So, did you see the other thing that they were talking about? The texture on the controller. What that actually is?
No, what is it?
Somebody caught it in the video, I guess, when they were doing the preview.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if you look really close from a distance, it just looks like it's a normal like texture for grip. But if you actually look at it, it is a repeating pattern of triangle, square, circle, X.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And it's
really
all
cool.
of their stuff on there.
Right on.
Which is kind of cool. It just kind of a little nod to that. And
Right.
they actually had a big thing also about what those actually mean, because there's actually meaning behind those, and why they did those instead of A B C D or A B X Y like Xbox did.
Sure.
Which is funny because it's from years ago, but they're talking about it like it's new, because I guess they brought it back up.
Okay. Well, what is it?
Well, the guy that created it said, I gave each symbol a meaning and a color. The triangle refers to viewpoint. I had it represent one's head or direction and make it green.
Okay.
Square refers to a piece of paper. I had it represent menus or documents and made it pink. The circle and the X represent yes or no decision making, and I made them red and blue respectively. People thought those colors were mixed up, and I had to reinforce to management that that's what I wanted.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that. So anyway, they also, of course, have revealed the new design for the controller. Now, they actually revealed the design for the new controller a few months back, and it does definitely look a little different. The PlayStation controller has been consistently roughly the same ever since the PlayStation 1. So with some slight variation, but you could always look at it. You could always tell the difference between a PlayStation controller and an Xbox controller. And this one seems to be a little more, leaning a little closer to that Xbox kind of influence. It's a little smoother, a little more rounded. And from what I understand, is going to have force feedback on the triggers. It's going to, more of that, you're going to be able to feel it more. It's more than just the vibrations or the rockers on the inside of the controller. So that should be kind of cool too. But the basis of 2 triggers, the directional pad, the 2 buttons, or the 2 joysticks, the 4 buttons, and then the center screen button is going to be still going to be there. From what I understand, there's also going to be a dedicated audio jack on the and little tiny speaker on there as well, kind of like what we had in the previous one. Now, to get into some of the games, like they really did outline quite a few really great games. The 2 that really jumped out at me was at launch will be the new Spider-Man game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was a rumor saying that it was basically just a reskinned version of the previous Spider-Man game, and that is complete falsehood. It is a completely new game all by itself. It's called Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's going to be featuring Miles Morales as the main character instead of Peter Parker. I'm down, man.
Yep.
That's going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be really fucking badass. One of the cool things for me about the Spider-Man game was collecting all the different costumes, and they were all costumes that Peter had worn at various times in the comic book. Oh man, Chris, it is such a fun game. I will say once again, it is one of those games that you can blaze through. I mean, if you do a lot of gaming like I do, you could blaze through that game relatively quickly.
Hmm.
Like I think I got through the whole thing, and maybe I was in Florida at the time. I got through the whole thing in like 2 weeks. But I mean, I was playing that game almost every day for like, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 hours. So
Yeah, I ain't
you
got time for
can
that.
blaze. I know you can blaze. Well, like I said, when I was in Florida, I was working on the weekends. You can blaze through that game pretty quick if you choose. There's also a pretty decent amount of DLC. I highly recommend it. The DLC is really great and really adds a lot more to the
I believe
game.
I got the Game of the Year edition, so I should have all that.
So should have all of it. Yeah. Um, So that's really cool. I'm really excited about this new game. So we've got a lot of cool stuff coming from Marvel when it comes to games in the next 6 months, because we also have the Avengers game coming out pretty soon too. Now, the other game that blew my hair back
They saved
was
for
a game
last, right?
they saved these two pretty much for near the end of the
Well,
presentation.
no,
Was
Miles
this
Morales was at the beginning.
was that at the
Yeah,
beginning? Okay,
that was
but
one of
then
the
at the
first things
very
I saw when I turned it on.
Okay. At the very end, one of the last games that they showed a trailer for. That's the thing about this event that they did. It was largely game trailers. I mean, they did, spotlight the system, but it was largely game trailers. But the game that kind of made me go, oh God, was the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon
Um,
Forbidden West.
Yeah, and we didn't realize, it's funny because you didn't realize that the game's name is actually Horizon,
Yes.
and Zero Dawn is the name of the first chapter,
Yep.
basically the first game. The second game will be called Forgotten West, and it takes place. It's featuring the Forbidden West. It takes place after the first game, and it features Aloy, the original, the character from the first game. And as she goes to another area of the world or country,
she gets through the Rockies and heads
right
to the West Coast. They
Yeah,
actually show
and
her like riding through San Francisco because you can see like the Golden Gate Bridge like mostly collapsed, but also grown over and overgrown and stuff.
exactly. There's new animals. There is. It's basically continuing the story. And now at the end, for those of you guys who don't know, haven't played, I mean, she essentially fixes the problem of the AI system that was trying to terraform and fix the world after the great tragedy 1,000 years before. So I'm going to be curious. It's going to be curious to me to find out what is next for Aloy in this system.
She's chasing that one guy, the
Right,
guy that turned out to be the bad guy who she thought was her friend.
Well, he wasn't a bad guy per se. He was more kind of like he's kind of more just self-serving.
No, he was working with the demon. He was the one that was unleashing it.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yeah, it turned out that he was the one that was actually unleashing the demon. He was going to use it.
I don't remember that. I just remember him like working with her and just trying to get as much information as he could. But it seemed to me he was more like an opportunist, and not so much a villain, but more of an opportunist. I don't know. Either way, yes, he'll be in the game again too. I can't remember his name, but he was a character. He was an actor who was on the show Fringe.
Yeah, he was on Fringe. He's also been. He was on. He's on something now that I'm watching. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to IMDb him.
Anyway, needless to say, continuing the adventures of Aloy, and I think it looks really great. I really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn. It is one of those games, one of those RPGs that you will play for a while. This isn't like what I was talking about with Spider-Man or Wolfenstein, where you can pretty much blaze through it in a couple of weeks if you're playing consistently. This is a game that will take you months to finish. And I imagine the soul of this one.
Oh, that's what it is. He's in Bosch on what you call it, on Prime. But yeah, his name is, I just saw it, Lance Reddick.
Lance Reddick, yeah.
And he's actually in the John Wick movies. He was in Jonah Hex.
Yeah. He's a very kind of distinctive looking character actor.
He's the voice of Captain in Castlevania. He's been in a bunch of things.
He was on Fringe. He was one of the FBI agents. And Yeah.
He was
We'll
he
see.
was in American Horror Story.
Yeah. Very distinctive, slim, black gentleman,
Silence,
bald
that's
head,
his name.
silence. Yeah. Very deep voice.
Yeah, he has a
Very
very distinct
distinctive.
voice, and he is
So
doing the
yeah,
voice of Silence in Forbidden West.
silence. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Which even in
So
here, they
yeah.
don't have a date for when that comes out.
No. Well, that was the thing. Other than Spider-Man, I mean, they didn't really have a give dates for the releases of these games. They just, I mean, the system doesn't come out until Christmas, so there's that at the very least. I would imagine some of these games will come out. Some of them will be out, right at launch.
Yeah,
But
I'm guessing that we're gonna get Horizon Forbidden West probably next spring to next summer.
right, exactly. So yeah, Sony wants to emphasize value as opposed to price for the PS5. We must be more attentive than ever before to ensure that the overall value proposition. Jim Ryan, the CEO, has confirmed that when it comes to pricing the PlayStation 5, which was finally revealed in an online event on Thursday, Sony wants to emphasize value as opposed to price. While he wouldn't talk about a possible price point yet, we're not going to hear anything on price today, said Ryan told BBC. Thanks, comic book. He did say that the discless digital edition came about because consumers are purchasing solely digitally these days, and the company did what we typically try and do and just offer choice to its customers or consumers. Conventional wisdom and history shows that our business is one of the more recession-proof businesses, Ryan added, reflecting on releasing a next-gen release in 2020, but I think this will sharpen our need to ensure that we focus on getting the value equation right and emphasize value as opposed to price. So it's a dodge. He dodged that question pretty well, actually.
Forbidden West supposedly comes out June 11th.
Oh, of next year. Okay.
Well, this actually says June 11th, 2020, but I think it's supposed to be June 11th, 2021.
21. Okay. So yeah, I'm still guessing between
what?
4 and.
That was the date that it got released. That was the release of the announcement.
Okay, yeah, June 11th. The other, yeah. I'm guessing between $400 and $600 for the PlayStation. The PlayStation 5, maybe a like deluxe edition with all of the peripherals or something like that. So yeah, pretty big news, man. Guys, you can check out on there's the listing of all the games. Like I said, there were some really, really cool ones that looked like they were coming up. Some brand new games. Oh, that was another thing. Apparently, Grand Theft Auto 5 is getting a retooling as well. GTA 5 was actually one of the last games I played on my PS3, and GTA 5 was a lot of fun. I got to admit, it was a lot of fun, a blast of a game. I have not gotten into the online part of it because, once again, it was on my PS3, and I pretty much retired that. But the PS5 will be getting pretty much souped up for the PS5. And from what I understand, going to be adding in a bunch of new stuff, or some of the things that they have included in the online version of the GTA 5 Online will be on this new game. So, might be a game you might want to revisit, GTA 5 for the PS5 as well.
Huh. They're saying that Horizon Zero Dawn is going to come to the PS5.
I don't see why not. They're going to just, kind of remaster it for the PS5, and then, I mean, I think it's kind of silly. I mean, everybody that had a PS4, a lot of people that had a PS4 probably played it, so they probably still have the disc.
Yeah, did that stop you from buying Skyrim?
Well, Skyrim definitely, there was a substantial jump. I don't know if you saw, I mean, if you played it on the PS3 and then played it on the PS4, there was a big change, and I mean, yeah, it'll probably look beautiful, but I don't know. So going from the 4 to 5, we'll see. It's I think it might be a waste of money. I think a lot of people that have already played it, will probably not want to get it. Then again, who knows? I bought Last of Us for the PS3, and then I played it on the PS3, and then when it went on sale, when the remastered edition went on sale for the PS4, I bought it for $20. So we'll see. That's another one next week, or actually I think later this week or next, I don't know, early next week, coming up in the next few days. The Last of Us Part 2 comes out for the current gen systems. Guys, if you like shoot 'em up shooter games, particularly like this is a zombie variation shooter game, you'd love it. And on top of it being a really, really engaging story, really well done, incredibly well acted, starring one of our favorite people, Ashley Johnson from Critical Role, as well as I think Laura Bailey.
Yep, Laura Bailey is.
Laura Bailey's also in it. It's an incredible game, really, really fantastic. One of the best, honestly, one of the best video games I've ever played, and challenging, really good game. I believe Ashley Johnson got a BAFTA for her performance in that as the main character. And so, yeah, definitely check that one out. Last of Us Part 2 coming out within the next week or so.
All right. We're going to have to wrap things up pretty quick here because we're already over the hour and a half and
sure.
I got to change in 10 minutes. But I wanted to get to this. We had a question from a fan, actually, this week.
Okay.
And it's a comic book question.
Okay.
And what they wanted to know was, can Magneto lift Thor's hammer?
All right, so this has been debated. Part of one of the things that is part of the lifting, quote unquote, of the hammer is the grasping of the hammer and lifting it because you're worthy.
That I say. So here's my take.
Mm-hmm.
That I say Magneto cannot do.
Magneto cannot do that.
However, like an elevator, he can manipulate the gravity around it and move it.
Correct. Yes, exactly. He could probably move the
he could
object.
Manipulate the magnetic fields around it and lift it and move it over somewhere. But he could not wield it.
He could not wield it. No, not at all. He couldn't use it. He couldn't use it as a weapon. He couldn't pick it up, grab it, pick it up with his hand. But he could probably. It is a ferrous material, so he most probably could manipulate where it is.
Well, the other thing they've established with him, though, is that he's not just magnetism. He actually manipulates magnetic fields.
Correct.
So he can create a magnetic field around it to lift it as well.
He actually manipulates the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah.
So he's actually, like, they started off with him just being like, he controls magnetism. But over the years, they've developed his powers further and further. I mean, he is an alpha-level mutant. He's one of the most powerful mutants on the planet. So he can control things like gravity and light waves and specifically, ferrous materials and stuff. That it's much easier for him to manipulate, like iron and steel and things that are magnetic. But they've even gone so far as to say that he can manipulate the iron in your bloodstream. Things like that. In the movie version of Magneto, they made him very, very powerful, but at the same time, they concentrated more so on the magnetism and not so much on the electromagnetic stuff. But in the comics, I mean, he has a great deal of power. It can manipulate all kinds of electromagnetic energy. So, which I said, you're talking about radiation, you're talking about visible light, laser, anything that has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum, which is a broad fucking field. So yeah. So yes, he could move it, but not hold it and wield it.
He could lift it. He couldn't pick it up.
Correct. Yeah. At the very least, he could probably pick up the ground around the hammer and move the whole fucking,
Because like
a little island.
You put the hammer in an elevator. You hit the up button. It goes up. It
goes up.
That's the same reason that Vision can pick it up.
That's how it happens. I like it how when in one of the movies he knocks Loki down and he just sets his hammer on Loki and pins Loki to the ground. So yes, that's it. I was going to go into some comic book stuff, but that can wait essentially until next week. Basically, it's just some various minis that are coming out. Some Marvel's got some really cool stuff coming up. The X of Swords miniseries, which is going to be pretty big actually. They've doubled it from pretty much to a 24 issue crossover that's going to cross over into all the books, and it's a pretty big deal. Plus, Marvel's got another mini called Empire that's coming up that's going to stretch into some of the other books. Not so much deal with the mutants as much. There will be some crossover as well into the mutant books, but it's going to deal more so with like the cosmic books and the Avengers books. And then of course DC has got Death Metal coming up, their new big continuity-wise crossover, which is like a sequel to their previous one from 2 years ago, Metal, and it looks really, really cool. So we can get into greater detail about that next week, but some pretty cool stuff. Thanks for bearing with us with our technical difficulties this week, guys. It's an ongoing process. We're still learning. We're hoping to get it. That's the thing. Every week something wonky happens.
Dude,
we don't change anything.
I almost quit tonight.
Chris was ready to throw in the towel. He was like, "Fuck this!" And but that's the thing. We don't change anything, but just all of a sudden we'll open up the program and something will have changed. Yep. So it
I blame it on the Windows update that was on that hit my computer today.
That might have been it. Who knows?
That installed fucking Edge, which I can't stand.
Who uses Edge? I don't know. Stella was using it the other day. I'm like, why are you using Edge? Use Chrome like every other normal person in the world. I don't know. But guys, thanks for joining us here on our live stream. I've gotten some great compliments recently. A friend of mine, my friend Bruce, who's apparently been watching the show and been a fan. Hey, great show, guys. So be sure to tell all your friends about us. Remember, the more followers we get, the better it is for us on Twitch. We're not asking for any money. We're not asking for any contributions. We just for right now anyway. Yeah. We're just asking for you guys to help us out with some follows. In the meantime, you guys can download our audio version of the show on iTunes, the Google Play Store, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on iHeartRadio, and radio.com. You can download and or stream them on those sites. You can also download and stream them directly from our website at nerdswithalcoholshow.com. You can see it here on Twitch, and of course, we also put the shows up on our page on YouTube on Thursdays.
And you can follow us on the social medias. We are on Facebook, Nerds with Alcohol Show, Twitter at Drinking Nerds, Instagram, Drinking Nerds, Twitch, Drinking Nerds, and actually YouTube, Drinking Nerds. So, a
lot of drinking, a lot of nerds.
Yeah, actually, maybe we should just change the name of the show. Just Drinking Nerds. But I like the NWA reference. That was always the thing. So, but yeah, so I think on that note. Until next time.
Sláinte.
It was okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's all right.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Good night.
I got to get this set up. Hold on.